My name is Kasper,
Yeah, and my name's Daniel.
and we're from SagaLabs. We want to talk about our adversaries and their behavior and how to detect them today. As I said, my name is Kasper, and I'm a co-founder and instructor at SagaLabs.
Yep. And I'm mostly a developer, but also sometimes instructing here in SagaLabs.
You're the lead developer.
Lead developer, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And what we do is that we make scenario-based cybersecurity exercises. So we go out and do workshops facilitated on our Cyber Range platform because we know that it's really important to train in realistic environments. Our background is from the military, so we learned to train this way in the military, but we saw a gap in how people do it in cybersecurity. So we want to bring the military style of training into cybersecurity.
Exactly.
Therefore, our motto is train as you fight. Yeah, so we have a little agenda here. We're gonna talk about who our adversary is, the adversary behavior, and how we detect these attacks. And you're gonna go deep in how logging works.
Yeah,
Right.
a little bit.
Great. To start off, our adversaries, they come in different sizes, shapes, and names. There are what we call OCGs, organized crime groups, also called e-crime groups. There's APTs, advanced persistent threats. They are like state-sponsored actors, so the big guys from Russia, China, North Korea, and so on. And is there anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay, yeah. But they have different names depending on who is naming them. It can be hard to track who's who, and they all have these different procedures and how they attack people and companies and countries. So Russia, CrowdStrike is calling Russia for bears, and China for pandas, and North Korea for chihuahuas, Iran for kittens, and then there's a lot of different vendors who has other names for the same adversaries.
Yeah.
So
Some of them even uses IDs instead, so it's easier to track instead of this natural language. But the CrowdStrike model really has a good marketing spin on it and makes it really hip.
yeah, it does. It can be hard to track and figure out, but what they have in common, these adversaries, is their techniques and procedures. So you can map them to their different names that way. And they have some behavior behind them as well. So they behave in different ways, and we have some models that we can use to track these behaviors. We have high-level models, and we have less high-level models, and then we have these low-level models that really go into detail on how they move through the networks, how they get into networks and stuff like that. And we picked 3 different models: the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, and the Mandiant attack lifecycle, and then MITRE attack. To start off, I want to talk about cyber kill chain because that's the first official formalized kill chain we used in cyberspace. It came from the American military, from the Air Force, I think, where they compared the way that they do operations in the Air Force with how they get into networks in cyberspace. And they made these 7 different steps. So they did the reconnaissance, the weaponization phase, delivery, exploitation, installation, and command and control, and to finish off the action on objectives. So that's the bomb hitting the target, basically. And that's a really good high-level model on describing these attacks, but it doesn't really go into detail. So we cannot use it when we're gonna figure out how to defend ourselves. So we're gonna go deeper. And the next step on that ladder is the Mandiant attack lifecycle. It's a bit more detailed. There's some stuff that's not in the cyber kill chain. So, for instance, in the cyber kill chain, we have all the phases, or the first 5 phases from the cyber kill chain. They lie within the initial compromise of the Mangian attack lifecycle, and the rest is spread across the rest of the attack lifecycle. And it doesn't take into account the enumeration that happens on the network. So when our adversary get into a network, they have to move around on the network, and whenever they hit a new machine, they have to enumerate, scan the network, and move again. And that's an iterative thing they do with the cyber kill chain, at least. So that's what the attack lifecycle says something about as well. But the beast within these models, it's a MITRE ATT&CK, where we have 7 steps in the cyber kill chain. We have 14 in MITRE ATT&CK. And that's just the tactics, the overlying tactics. Then we have the techniques as well. It consists of course, the tactics, the techniques, and then the procedures. The procedures are how they combine these different techniques and going through the tactics of a cyber attack. So we can map our adversary in that. So that's really powerful. And here's the entire thing. And it's not even we haven't even expanded it.
Yeah. Every step, all the gray boxes, you can expand these, and they have subcategories. Mm-hmm. It's very detailed, but there's still other models out there that are even more detailed than this. But this is what we usually would encounter in all the enterprises.
Yeah, this is
common language.
Yeah, it's the golden standard for mapping these attacks. It's MITRE ATT&CK. If you have a security product, it probably maps to MITRE. And there's a lot more to MITRE, because when we can map these different attacks and techniques that the adversary uses, we can attribute the threat actor. We can figure out how they move through the systems, and then we can make what's called
attribution. What?
Yeah, attribution. We can make tactics and procedures on how to defend ourselves against them. Yeah. So we can do that threat modeling on our own networks. So we can figure out how do we avoid getting hit by this specific threat. That's really, really powerful. And as I said before, it integrates into a lot of products. And there's a whole ecosystem around this. So there's mitigations and detections on their community documentation. So you can go in and see, okay, if we're gonna get hit by this attack, like phishing or whatever, you can go in and see the mitigations and the detections on that specific topic and that specific technique. And then go tell the IT guys, go fix.
Exactly.
Yeah. And here's a mapping on an adversary,
exactly.
A group. And then, how do we detect an attack?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Usually, what do you have an example on that?
Yeah. So usually you would be hit by some sort of adversary, and a common example would be looking at your screen and seeing that there's ransomware on it. But usually a lot of these actors would be a lot more stealthy than that, or if you're not hit by something as destructive as a ransomware attack, then it becomes more complicated, right? And relying on the users to detect an attack would not be a good idea on the long run. So usually what we want to do is we want to do some logging. We want to look at the artifacts, and we want to do some analysis.
Yeah, because if we don't do that, we won't figure out how. It's too late. Sometimes companies never figure out whether they're hit or not. So it could be really tricky. And what we want essentially, is that we want an overview of our environment, alerts on intrusions and detections and all that stuff. We don't want any nasty surprises.
Okay.
And the way we get that is through, as you said, logs. And you're gonna talk a lot about that. I'm not an expert on logs, but you are. Within this industry, there's a lot of buzzword bingo. So people talk a lot about EDR, XDR, CM, SOAR, SASE, whatever. There's a lot of acronyms that vendors are trying to throw at you as the perfect solution to your problem, to your IT problems. So it could be a bit overwhelming, and we can't buy all these products at the same time and implement it, and then we're good. We can't do that. We need to understand them and how they work.
Yeah, and it's not only about products, right? Because we need to actually go and investigate some stuff. We don't just assume that we can buy something that is that's a software, and then we're nicely protected, because there's some work roles behind this, and all of these things that we wanna investigate, they fall into the same group, and we call that DFIR, which is digital forensics and incident response. That would be the big group that would group it all together. And it's all about trying to systematically collect some sort of artifacts. Artifacts are any kind of digital piece of evidence that we can gather. That could be a log, and it could be a piece of software. It can be a memory dump, an image dump. An artifact could also be the laptop that we go out and obtain the complete laptop, and then we can do some analysis on that laptop that has been compromised. The log is then a sub-version of an artifact, which is more of a description of what has happened in the system. So it's a transaction or a small document, which can come in many formats. But one is, for instance, a TXT file that just says a user has logged in, or a user has installed a program or something like that. There are many types of logs. We usually categorize them in system logs, application logs, security logging, and network monitoring and logging. And one of them that we usually miss is the application logging, because it's a bit hard and it's very individual from company to company what software they're using. So having integrations and knowing how to get these logs out of these is a bit more challenging than, for instance, getting logs out of Windows or Linux, because that's all the same and everyone is doing that. Yep. So logs are stored in, for instance, in Windows. It's stored on the disk, and we can view them via the event log. That would be the local way of viewing this, and on Linux it would be written to a special directory. But otherwise it's not that homogeneous where the logs are stored. The important thing is that we don't want the logs to be on the local machine forever. Because when an attacker has compromised a server or a laptop, then he has full access to, for instance, go in and delete these logs. And this is a big problem, of course, because then we cannot see who did it behind or do this analysis. They cleaned up after themselves. These logs can come in all types of formats. Some of them are using CSV and some of them are TXT. But we want them to be in one format instead, because then we can start doing analysis. Again, not on the local laptop, but instead on another system. And we do this because of non-repudiation. We want to be able to blame someone for doing the actions they've done on their systems. So if someone has, for instance, clicked on a link, we want to know who clicked on the link. Not to bash that guy in the head, but to know why and how they got hacked. And we want to prove also that it's not our employee that did all of this action, and it was not our employee that was the insider threat. We want to prove that it was a malicious actor instead.
Yeah, so that's the same thing as attribution, right?
Yeah, we want to attribute that it's not our own actor, or maybe it was, but otherwise we have to have a good artifact catalog that we can look into, and we need to be sure that no one has tampered with this. And the this is what we do when we do analysis in a SIEM system. What we want to do is ship these logs off from the laptops and into a central logging facility. And when we already have the logs in a central place, then we can also use this as an overview and do analysis of these logs. And in a SIEM, a security information and event management system. In a SIEM system, we can integrate with all kinds of logs, but we can also write our own sorts of parsers to get this common event format for everything. We have a lot of vendors in the SIEM space, but it doesn't really matter. That's of course, when you buy the product, it's important for you that you get a product that works. But in the end, it's all about what the SOC analyst's mindset is. So whatever the product that you're using, you need to know that you have a couple of work roles that are working in this SIEM system. And they need to understand how to analyze and know how your company is working, know what the normal picture is so they can spot anomalies. And that's pretty much it for a good SIEM system. So it's not about the product, it's about the people that are running it. And I think that's pretty much all that we have for today. I think we would like to say thank you. And if this is a subject that is interesting to you, then reach out to us. And we would love to point you in the right direction to get some more resources into the topic. And also, if your company needs a workshop from us, hit us up. You can find us on our website on SagaLabs.dk.
Yeah, or on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Well. Very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, or in the cyber community out there.
Yeah.
We are pretty present.
I would say so.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it. Thank you.